to all
It
your
was
viewers.
actually a welcome back to Philippine politics.
Well, not welcome
Last
back to
time
the
when-
set.
Sort of, almost 2 years, after 2 years.
I think nabanggit po ninyo, nag-break din kayo dati ng mga ganong katagal, 2 years
Yes,
din
as a
yata
matter
yun.
of fact, it's a welcome respite always. When I first entered the Senate in 1992, from 4 years of local governance as Vice Mayor of Quezon City, we had many successes there. But I saw a lot of laws that needed to be passed. And I was able to do it from the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th Congresses. You know, the Dangerous Drugs Act, and then the converting municipalities into cities, 33 of them. As a matter of fact, most of the places you're living in now, perhaps I converted it into a city sometime from 1992 to 1995. 13 in Metro Manila, from municipalities to cities.
Is that the same reason why you decided to run again this time around?
Yes, somewhat, because after 2004, I was no longer in the Senate from 2004 to 2010, except for 2 years in the Dangerous Drugs Board. Again, I was able to see, and I was able to learn a number of laws that needed to be passed. That's the reason that I authored and passed the mental health law, the Doktor para sa Bayan, the free medical scholarship, and all
Kumbaga
that.
parang nanggigigil kayo pa
Oo, nakita ko
nagpapahinga
ito
kayo.
yung mga kulang.
But this time around,
Eto.
saan kayo nanggigigil pag napapanood niyo? Because we see your tweets, you
Yes.
comment on hearings here and there.
Yes, for almost 2 years now, I've been saying, wait, something's wrong with the budget. We really need a budget reform. It's now 6.3 trillion. And 60%, more than 60% goes to personal services. And then a big chunk for debt servicing. So how much of this budget goes to the people?
According
So we
to
need
you,
to
less than
right-size.
10%, di ba?
We
ang
need to,
napupunta.
yes, we need to right-size the government. You know, so perhaps a law that will allow early retirement programs for the part of the 60% personal services, something like that. No?
Okay.
And then the fake news and fake content, that's really hurting the social media. And I was able to author also the amendment to the Sotto law, the previous Sotto law, because the old Sotto law, which was enacted in 1946 by my grandfather, that's why they called it for Sotto law, is the freedom of speech, press freedom law. It's a press freedom law, but it only was for print. All this time, it was for print media.
hasn't
And
kept
so,
up. Oo.
yes, so
It hasn't
in
kept
the 16th, 17th Congress, I was able to amend it and make it, that includes you now, broadcast media,
Online.
and digital.
Sen,
And radio, television included.
Let's come back to let's tackle the issue one by one. Coming back to the right sizing. So, kaya pala, that's one of the pet bills that you want to come back to.
Yes.
Because you think the budget is overinflated. 63% go to personnel. But it's also true that for a growing economy, talagang lalaki ang bureaucracy. Of course, you need people to run the government, right?
Yes,
Should we
but
be looking at plugging the gaps, the other leakages instead?
that included.
Yeah, okay.
But definitely, if you will look at the bloated personal services, it could be lessened to about at least 45, less than 50% should be for personal services. You know, what's happening is that when they propose the budget, most of the departments would always put a budget for new hire, and that will include their what is included in the
Recommended
personal
staff.
services and all that.
Yeah.
No,
whole
allowances and
plantilla.
all that stuff. So, but then at the end of the year, it's not used. So it goes to unused. And that's the reason that Senator Lacson and I, before, were pushing for a budget reform advocacy, because there is an average of 328 billion pesos unused every year in the last 10 or 12 years.
Yan
How
yung
do you think-
absorptive
yeah.
capacity.
How do you think your colleagues will react to that? If you push for budget reforms, sometimes it's not very popular. But you're also, of course, you were also the majority leader. You were also the Senate President. So I'm sure kaya niyo pong laruin, di ba?
I
But
think it's a matter of explaining it to them, explaining why they should support it. In the Senate or even in Congress, you have to master the art of compromise. Somewhat.
And
What is your... Do you have any thoughts on what's going on? So, ang pinag-aawayan right now is the OVP budget, right? So, the OVP budget is now in Senate for deliberation. You saw what happened in the House. It became a
Yes, I
huge
was able
contentious
to learn
issue.
a few things that happened there.
What is your... When you were watching it, what was going through your mind?
Well, again, it's a matter of perhaps of information and tradition that has been followed in Congress and in the Senate for all these years. We never take up a budget of any department if the head of department is not present. It's always the case. It's a tradition. So with the vice president not attending, I can't blame the House for acting that way.
Pero sir, si President Marcos din, he doesn't attend. So it's parliamentary courtesy for OP and OVP.
The president is always exempted.
Okay, so the only exemption should be president.
Even all these years, the president has never been invited to attend the budget deliberations or budget.
So si ES Bersamin lang. So that's enough.
Everybody else.
has to attend?
The exemption is
must
only for
attend.
the president, no one else.
It's only the president.
One thing that's hanging, after all of this, when the Senate hearings resume, when the Senate resumes, is the possibility of impeachment against the vice president. Where are you on that? Do you think that the failure of her office to respond to COA's notices on disallowance is an impeachable offense?
Well, as much as I'm not in the Senate right now, I may give my comment on it, because if I were, I would say that I will not. Because
It's
we
a good
will
thing
be
we have you now.
the impeachment court.
And then we'll call you when you're in the Senate again.
I don't think they will impeach her in the House of Representatives. I mean,
In the
in
lower
Congress,
house,
in
the
the
lower
lower
house.
house. Yes, I don't think so.
because-
And then it won't reach
I don't
Senate.
think so. I don't
Because-
think that is enough. What do you call this?
The allegations that are...
Well,
yeah.
yes, allegations or the discrepancies would be enough to come up with an impeachment. That's my opinion. No? Of course, it's the opinion of the congressman would be probably different, but that's the way I see it.
Okay. Sticking to the budget still and all the issues that have cropped up since all these hearings on the OVP budget, actually, Tito Sen, marami ring lumalabas na other issues like unprogrammed appropriations, all these things, right?
Exactly. It all falls into the same crack. It all falls in the same crack. It's budget reform. When you say budget reform, it's not just because it's bloated. It's the way you use the budget. For example, our proposal is to use the unused and give it to the local governments. If you give 1 billion pesos per province on top of their IRA and on top of their budget and limit it to agriculture, livelihood, and infrastructure, you will be creating jobs all over the
Why do
country.
we
And
have
that's
so
only
much-
82 billion.
Why do we have so much unused funds?
You'd better ask them.
Pero Sen, during your time, there was also unused funds.
Oh, yes, they were.
What was
they
happening
were.
during your
and
time
we try
then?
our best to be able to come up and make sure it's back in the general fund or it's
Used.
it's removed in the next in the
Yung
budget
nangyari po
next
sa
year.
yung nangyari
That's
po
why
sa
when
PhilHealth.
I say I'm sorry, when I say average, there were times it was over 500.
Ah, okay.
Oh,
Oo nga,
Your
sa
thoughts on what
PhilHealth.
happened to PhilHealth? Yung excess funds nila, nilagay sa unprogrammed appropriations, binalik sa ano.
I think it is a very big mistake. PhilHealth should be answerable to all this because if you recall, I was head of the committee of the whole, as Senate President, that investigated the PhilHealth in all the allegations against them then. And we submitted to the Ombudsman. I think the Ombudsman practically carried the recommendations that I gave in the committee report and charged the people behind
But
this.
isn't it Congress that inserted the provision that that could happen?
Yeah.
Na pag may excess fund, pwede siyang i-remit back to Treasury.
As I said, I
why
think
is it
it's a
PhilHealth?
mistake. I think it's a mistake. You should not do that. I think PhilHealth should be able to use that 89 billion to either lessen the contribution or to expand the coverage. You know, cover other illnesses.
Yeah, actually, those
That's
are the
what
only
it's for.
mandate. Yeah,
Yeah.
But there's only two mandates. Lower the fees or increase the membership.
Yung isa pang issue before we leave the budget, the reform segment of this conversation, Tito Sen, no, yung MUP. It was very contentious and it ended
which
with
one
a
is
change in the uniformed
military.
personnel, military and uniformed
okay.
personnel. They were trying to, at least former Finance Secretary Ben Diokno was trying to I think, rally support to kind of reform how we give away the pension system because parang napopromote pa rin po yung mga retirees. It's of course a delicate balance, as you would know.
Yes, it is. I am not too private to the figures, no? But Senator Ralph Recto, then now Secretary of Finance, had a very good proposal on how to address it. Because during that time that we were taking it up, that was even before the pandemic, you know, we took it up precisely because we thought that in the next few years, the budget of the pensions would be higher than the
Correct.
budget of the national defense.
Yes. I think that's exactly the same thing that they were saying.
That's why the proposal of Secretary Recto then, I think, holds water. I think you should invite him and let him explain.
We have been trying.
inviting her, especially to talk about the PhilHealth issue. Let's talk about your campaign, Sen. You were part of the Alianza slate. Sorry. When did you get invited, pala, to join the slate?
A few months ago. If I recall it right, let me see, as early as June, May or June of this year, we received an invitation from PFP. I sat down with General Tom Lanchon. PFP is the president's party, and there was a mutual friend of Senator Lacson and I that invited us for lunch, and he was sent by the president to talk to us about it.
So at
Talk
that
about the
point-
alliance and the possibility of us returning. And we really considered it and decided sometime last month.
Senator Lacson said he still remains to be an independent.
Yes.
We haven't heard from you. Why did you decide to ally with the administration? Kasi alam po natin, meron po kayong history nung People Power Revolution noon. Eh, kayo po yung nag-author nung kantang
Magkaisa.
Wala pa ako noon. Ginugel ko lang.
During those times, baka wala pa kayo noon.
Wala pa.
Nandito
Kami
na kami.
But you know,
You were
to be
probably
in a slate.
toddlers
Yeah.
during that
To
time.
be in a slate now, even after what happened before, why did you choose?
We've
that path.
always been friends. Senator President Marcos and I.
He was in the
We've
Senate.
always been friends. Since he was 11 years old. Because I used to play with a band. We called ourselves the Tilt Down Men, and we were the favorites of Mrs. Marcos. And my wife was the favorite of Mrs. Marcos. So we knew each other then. You know, politics.
Actually, Tito Sen, I have a...
Usually one day.
Yeah.
I have a similar question,
Konti.
pero medyo iba siya. I was wondering, kasi a lot of political analysts and pundits have already said this, you actually don't need to join the administration slate to win.
Kaya na.
Oo, you
Even-
have
even
topped,
Senator
and
Lacson.
Senator Lacson, even Lito Lapid, you've topped all the surveys, Okta, SWS, Pulse, Asia, Oculum, since the start of the year and late last year, you were always safely up there in the top spot.
Yes, but you see, I'm chairman of the Nationalist People's Coalition, and I consulted our party mates, and the consensus was to join the alliance with the PFP. And may I again also remind that the NPC was in alliance with the president
Yes.
right after 2022 elections.
So it's not a new alliance.
No, it's not. We were in alliance with the president. It was only in Congress, if you will recall, the NPC backed the candidate of the president. And so, as party chairman, we decided to join the alliance because it will give a protection. Let me quote that. Protection
other
for our
candidates.
party mates who are incumbents.
So it's not just for yourself, it's really
yeah,
for...
yes, it's not just for me. It's for the entire party because the agreement is equity of the incumbent, and we have almost 50 congressmen. We have hundreds of mayors. We have 8 governors. They are protected with this alliance. And that's one of the big reasons we prefer an alliance. And there were probably 3 or 4 members of the NPC who wanted to run for the Senate. Might as well join the alliance. And we definitely included Senator Lacson as a guest candidate of NPC. He was not a member of the alliance until we made him a guest candidate or an honorary member of NPC.
You're also very quickly, you're in a very unique position because I know from the last administration, you were also on very good footing with the Dutertes. You seem to be also very good friends with the Marcoses. Now that that love team has broken up, how are you planning to position yourself?
I think that's the most difficult question.
It is.
At this point, because we remain friends. We remain friends. Again, no, aside from the fact that I've known the president since he was a...
Since he was
not
11.
even a teenager. All right? He was in the Senate for 6 years. And I was his majority leader for 6 years. And then President Duterte, we met in 1988. He was mayor of Davao. I was vice mayor of Quezon City.
Oh, wow.
My advocacy was anti-drug abuse, and he was anti-drugs.
Of course, yeah.
And we worked together as early as 1988. His vice mayor became my vice president for Mindanao when I put up the Vice Mayor's League in 1990. So I would be caught between the two friends, but I remain their friends. They remain my friends, as far as I know.
So then, how is that going to work if, say, you do get into the Senate again, and then you get elected Senate President once again? And then at which point you would have to make a stand on certain things. For instance, the drug war hearings, EJ case.
I always make a stand for the right, for what I think is right, no matter who gets hurt.
Okay.
You can trace my record from the 90s to the present.
So you will remain independent. Switzerland, so to speak.
I would always want the Senate to be independent-minded. We should always be independent. It's the last bastion of democracy as called by the oldies that I have been with. I have been with the olds. You know, it's a good thing. I was lucky enough to be with Senator Bobby Tañada, Neptali Gonzales, Ernie Maceda, Boy Herrera, Sayerson Alvarez, Joey Lina, Bert Romulo. I was their I was their boy.
Yeah.
I was their prodigy. Oh, I learned a lot from these people from 1992 to 1998.
With what you've seen on the ground, whose drug war do you agree with?
I have my own drug war. Somewhat, there are points that were used by President Duterte. There are points that are being used by President Marcos now. But I have a bill that will renovate, shall I say, the Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. It's in the law that I made. I principally
I remember
authored that law,
that.
by the way. It should be reviewed every 5 years.
And what does that
And my
say?
review is that we should make the PIDEA into an authority instead of an agency. Presidential, not Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. We must make a Presidential Drug Enforcement Authority. Okay, what does that do? We must put the 4 major concerns into one umbrella. Enforcement, prosecution, rehabilitation, and prevention. You know, who does prevention? Should be DepEd. Who does rehabilitation? Should be DOH. Who does prosecution? It should be DOJ. And who does enforcement? PNP. There should be an authority that
To
would
direct.
be able to oversee this. For right now, it's segregated. It's all enforcement on PIDEA,
So
PNP
ano po yung
sometimes.
challenge doon
yeah.
pagka magkakahiwalay siya?
Oh, mabigat eh. But if there's an authority over this, you know, I guarantee you it will be, the drug war will be better. It will not be only against drug pushers, it will be for the drug,
Rehabilitation,
drug users, drug abuse.
You're rehabilitating that side,
Yes,
cutting down
because
on
I
the
always
pushers.
believe that the day we stop buying is the day they stop selling. Nobody buys.
So
Who will
demand,
sell?
The demand,
The demand.
side.
Yeah, demand side. Fix the demand
One
side.
other issue that where former President Duterte and President Marcos are complete opposites on is foreign affairs, right? So obviously, former President Duterte fully embraced China. President Marcos aligned ourselves with Washington. So ibang-iba yung approach nila. Again, if you were in the Senate and you had to take a stand, which one looks better to you?
I will push for the passage of my bill that I filed before the end of the 18th Congress, which is creation of the establishment of the Philippine Maritime Zones.
Ay,
Yes.
it's moving.
It's moving.
Yeah.
I think it's under Senator Tolentino
We were talking
now.
to Senator
Yes,
Tolentino.
but we should pass it, and it should be defined. We should not just rely on UNCLOS, and we should definitely not rely on the 9-dash line. We must have our own whatever dash line.
But do you
With
agree?
creation of the maritime zones, I principally authored that. Whatever law they're taking it, whatever bill they're taking it up, I'm sure they got it from the law that I filed.
But do you agree on the temperament of this government when it comes to dealing with China and all the encounters out at sea?
I'm not really too familiar on how they're handling it, but I think everything should always be acted diplomatically. It's very difficult to be tough. When you're small, it's very difficult to be tough. You have to be
Kumbaga,
wise.
let's go back to the
You
negotiating
have to be
table.
smart, yes.
What? Go ahead.
There's more allies now, though. A lot of other countries, the U.S., apart from the U.S., UK, Australia, Japan, South Korea, maybe not ASEAN, but France
Yeah.
as well, have committed to help boost defense capabilities for the Philippines.
It's good
right?
protection.
Yeah. So
I say
so
it's
parang
good
collectively, we're
protection.
bigger.
It's kumbaga sa ano, you have a big brother watching out, and you know the other big guy does not just trample on you.
Where were
So
you
that's good enough.
during? Where were you on with the former president's foreign policy being quite close to China, trying to be friendlier to that side? Ano po yung tingin niyo doon?
Economically,
Is that correct?
economically, that was fine with me. But as far as the what do you call this?
The South China Sea, West Philippine Sea issue. Iba kasi yun.
Medyo no.
But economically,
I'm
you were
more on the preserving what's ours is ours.
Kind of related to that is the issue of pogos naman.
Yeah.
Started, can I say started? I mean, the idea has been around for a while, but the bill to tax them happened under former President Duterte, and they really proliferated during the pandemic, right? 2019
The
to
bill
2022.
actually, and I was part of
You were part of that
we
Congress.
passed that.
Yeah.
The bill was to tax it because it was there already.
Yes.
At that time, did you believe in the potential of pogos? At
beg
that
your pardon?
time? Nung 2020, was it? 2019?
Somewhere,
2017,
sometime,
I think.
that year.
Back then, did you believe in the potential of pogos to help the economy?
Yes, we were convinced by the Department of Finance during that time. And our Ways and Means Committee presented a very good picture. That's why we allowed that it be taxed, not knowing that we were not taxing the illegals. So it's an executive department problem.
So in hindsight, what would you have done differently with regard to that specific law and plan to tax pogos, at least the legal ones?
We could not have done more. It's either we should have passed it or we did not. If we did not, it will proliferate. It will still proliferate without government earning nothing at all. And there would just be illegals or...
And do you think that's what's going to happen with a total ban on pogos now?
That everyone
Final
will now
words
be
of the
illegal.
No, I don't think so. If we're
Kakayanin kaya
strict...
to stamp it out?
Yes,
Hindi
if
ba
government is hell-bent on doing that, we should stop it. We should stop it. And if we stop it completely. Do not allow any illegals. Yung baga sa sabong, may mga tupada.
But that would be easier said than done, no, Senator? How, based with your experience in government, like what is the best way to make sure
I don't
that we
think
stamp them out? It's a law enforcement issue.
You know,
It's like a,
yes, it's a law enforcement thing. So I really, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's that difficult to do. All you really have to do is nakakita ka ng isang damakmak na mga Chinese nationals working. What do you call that?
TNT.
For an overseas online thing. You know? Of course, wala naman tumatay ang Pilipino doon. Sabi nga nita, kaso may mga krimen na nangyayari dahil doon sa presence nila. So if it's an executive action, the president wants it out, the people wants it out, totally kaya yan. Kung desidido ang PNP, kung desidido ang enforcement arm, NBI, PAOC, di ba? Desidido, kayang i-wipe out yan. Wala naman dati. Pinayagan lang eh.
Bukod po dun
Diba?
sa...
And then again, there was this issue. I remember I was listening to the radio of TV5, One News, I should say. The other...
1PH, right.
This morning, 1PH. PAGCOR should be asked to explain. And not only that, they should be included in whatever committee report is being done because that is practically malfeasance. Negligence if you've allowed it and it's happening under your nose. But of course, then baka naman may magandang explanation ng PAGCOR. So government should address
Their
it.
explanation
The
is
executive department should address it.
Their explanation is that they're only the ones handing out the license. They're not the law enforcement. I remember,
Yan ang
di ba, we talked
pinakabigat
to
eh.
somebody from PAGCOR
Alam mo,
about this.
bibigyan mo ako ng lisensya. Ang itsura dito sa iba, lisensyado ako. O
Right.
pwede akong magtayo ng iba na hindi mo nakikita.
Wala naman daw silang
Di ba?
capability to monitor.
Ayun ang mahirap eh. Kaya,
But with the Alice Go mess, what laws do you see need to be tightened up?
ayan, that's a very good question. Because also, I was tinkering with the idea of review of our enforcement laws, particularly on these issues, because so that the Alice Go incident will never be repeated. Dapat yan, we look at the enforcement laws on how to go about it. Paano tayo nakakakuha ng passport na fake? Paano tayo nakakakuha ng birth certificate na fake? Ano ba mga batas natin dito?
Yeah.
Pero yun nga yung
Those
problema
are what we
natin.
should be reviewed.
Right, Senator? Our problem has always been that mahina tayo sa enforcement ng mga existing laws. Usually, kung may problema tayo, we already have a law, and I'm sure you know this, that we just need to enforce. properly or strictly? And I know you're running to be a lawmaker, not a law enforcer.
To an extent, I will agree with you. But to a certain extent, there is this medyo hindi ako masyado na
sige lang.
naniniwala, no? Because there are laws that right now that are misinterpreted. Or let's just let's not take the example of the issue on party list. Medyo madugo yun eh. Yung issue nung Juvenile Justice Act.
Okay.
Di ba? Ang una nilang pinasa, 18 below. DSWD. Committed a crime. Nagpasa na kami ng, binaba namin yun eh, 15 and below.
15.
Naging 12 and below na nga yan. Ngayon, yung 12 to 17, doon, dati, DSWD muna. Pagka nakitaan ng discernment, dapat ikasuhan. Di ba? Ganun yung dati. Itong ginawa namin, baliktad, pasado na yun eh. Ginawa namin, may discernment ka. Yung 12 to 18, may discernment ka. Ha? Dapat yun, kakasuhan ka. Patunayan mo ngayon na hindi mo alam yung ginawa mo. Saka ka napasa sa DSWD. Ganun yung bagong batas eh. Hindi yun ang ini-enforce eh. Nami-misinterpret eh.
Kakalituhan dahil
Kaya nga, yes, there are laws, but it's not.
Provisions.
Sometimes it's misinterpreted. That's why I said earlier, I will agree with what you're saying, there are laws,
Right.
but I also disagree na yung
Oo. Pero sayang naman yung pagod din nyo, di ba? Ilang oras nag-hearing,
Correct.
nag-plenary.
Kaya nga, every time, binabanggit ko sa kanila, pag minarinig ko sa radio na ini-interview yung police, sabi, hindi, kasi below pinadala namin sa WSD, tinatawagan ko nga yung radio station eh. I really react, no? Like what happened to the Congress when they were passing the divorce law. Narinig ko yung mali bilang eh.
O, galit na galit kayo
Ayun,
doon.
let's talk about divorce.
Sabi nyo, tinamaho. Ayun ang sabi niyo. No? Kasi ang sabi ng administrasyon ay ng Congress, may administrative error that time. Kaya nabago yung bilang. Ang sabi ninyo,
That never happens. That can never happen. That is not legal. Because you adjourned sine die. Tapos the following day, you're correcting it, you're adjourned sine die. Come on.
That's a technicality.
Hindi sila marunong parliamentary rules? Imposible. Di ba? They know. Kaya lang, nagkamali. Nagkamali ng bilang. They thought 126 beats 109. When 20 abstentions. They thought it was a one bill. It was not. But then again, they insisted that it's 130 man daw. Okay. Let Senate take it up.
So
But
safe to say-
if I am back in the Senate, I will push for administrative process of annulment.
So an easier annulment.
Wait. So
What
safe
does
to
it mean?
say you are not going to be supporting the divorce bill still. You
It's-
haven't
it's
changed your
the same.
stance.
Have you read the bill? I read it eh. It's the same. It's tedious. It's expensive. Kahit sabihin pa, binaba daw sa 50,000. It's tedious, it's expensive. The best thing is what we did with adoption. We passed a law, ginawa naming administrative ang adoption, hindi na judicial. The same thing should be done now. In place of a law on divorce, we should push for administrative process for annulment. Hindi tedious yan at hindi magastos yan. Madali yan.
But Sen, the trouble there is mahirap i-prove yung psychological incapacity.
Mawawala nga lahat yan. Hindi na nga
Kasi
administrative
hindi na
to
siya
eh.
dadaan sa
Na, iba na.
your
decision.
idea, in your plan, no
Iba
need
na.
to,
Yes, in my proposal, it will be easier. It will no longer be tedious. It will no longer be expensive. Unlike the bill now on divorce.
Okay.
Saka wala na yung lokohan na kunwari, ikaw yung incapacitated.
Mawawala yun.
So the grounds of proving psychological incapacity won't be
Administrative na
there
lang, huwag
anymore.
nang judicial.
So how is
Oras
that
na
different?
dumaan ka sa korte, laban na ng mga abogado.
Yes.
Gastos
So,
ka umado.
Sen, how is that
Sakit ng
different
ulo na Solgen.
from just proving, how is that different from just pushing through the divorce bill?
Well, we
Fast
will
track
have to
din
go
ang
into the
annulment.
details. No? We will have to go into the details. But I assure you, we will not be stepping on the toes or on people who are against divorce.
What about
with
the RH
administrative,
bill?
So parang
Uh,
compromise.
How about
administrative,
search? Isn't that
process.
going to make it too easy
Annulment
for
is present.
couples to
Annulment
get
is
annulled?
accepted already. We're just making it administrative instead of judicial. So there's nothing wrong. I'm sure the church will be behind it.
So it will
Or will
nullify.
support it at the very
It
least.
will nullify the marriage, but it does not grant legal protection, legal rights to the spouses.
It can.
So they
It's
can
annulled.
remarry,
It's annulled.
Pero
You
it's
know, I have 3
administrative.
daughters. They're all annulled.
but they're it's a,
Yeah.
Kaya kabisado ko yan eh.
so nag-debate po kayo sa dinner table about it.
Kabisado ko yan eh. Kaya lang po, ganong kahirap yun eh.
Tito Sen, itong election, itong halalan na ito, there's been criticism of the seemingly overdrive on political dynasticism. In the Senate, the surveys show that ang posibleng makapasok ay
Dalawang tulfo.
tatlong
Dalawang bago.
Incumbency.
Dalawang
Dalawang
bago.
bago, pero mangyayari 3 tulfo, if ever, 2 Cayetano, tapos 2
Villar.
Villar, tapos merong Estrada Ejercito. I mean, do you feel comfortable with this setup? Almost half of the members of the Senate
family
magkakapamilya.
members. Yeah.
And how does that influence legislation?
Let me answer that in another way. No? I'd rather not comment on what we have in the Senate right now, or what we might have in the Senate right now. Let me just comment on the issue of anti-dynasty. All right. Depende yan on it to a certain extent. You know, like for example. We tried to pass it in the 9th Congress. The 9th Congress is 1992 to 1995. We need an enabling law. It's in the
Constitution,
It's in
but
the
wala pa
Constitution,
rin batas.
but we need an enabling law. Pretty much like the party list system which we enacted to an enabling law. Yung enabling law, nung dinidebate namin yan, and I distinctly remember it was Orly Mercado who was sponsoring it in the Senate. And I was one of the interpellators. And while I was interpellating, one big question that raised the eyebrow of our Senate President then, Neptali Gonzales, was that, kasi yung tanong ko, ano ba yan, ang gusto natin dito sa anti-dynasty, anong degree? Ang sagot nga sa akin, to 2nd degree of consanguinity. So that means asawa, anak, tatay. Di ba? Yung
Immediate.
immediate, no? Di ba? Okay. So sabi ko, paano yung kabit? Na hindi nakasagot eh. Teka, sabi
Valid
ni Orly,
point.
Hindi, sabi ko, it's really it's a practical question.
It's reality.
You will prevent my wife from running, but you will allow my mistress to run. Di ba? Yun ang problema. Ngayon, sabi ni Orly, let's put it in the law. Di ba? Okay, ganda solusyon. Baba si Nep. Tanda ko yun, nasa rostrum si Nep, bumaba siya. The Senate President usually must, if you want to join the debates or interpolate or deliver a speech, you must go down to the floor. He went down to the floor. He said that cannot be possible. Palit-palitan pa kami, pero ang isang line ni Nep na hindi ko makakalimutan, sabi niya, you cannot legalize the illegal.
Okay. Misenyas na po si
Kaya hindi
Marie.
mo pwede.
In short, ang hirap po ng buong debate.
Ang hirap ng
Mahaba.
debate. Ang hirap ng
But
debate.
do you agree we should pass?
Dito sa nangyayari sa Senate o sa ibang mga lugar, binoboto ng tao. So, what
Yun
do
po yung
we want to
sinabi
do
ni
about
Camille
it?
Villar.
Actually, yan ang sinasabi ng
Ni
lahat.
Camille, binoto naman kasi kami.
Yun nga lang, yung
Yun ang-
checks and balances, pati syempre yung, kung ano, dalawa-dalawa, kumpul-kumpulan na kayo.
Alam mo, sige, kinakausap ako ng marami akong governors at saka mayors ng kapartido. Ano? So, kinakausap nila ako. Ang isang sinasabi nila sa amin, pag tinatanong ko yung issue ng dynasty, sinasabi nila, I'm not yet ready to accept the reasoning. But what they're saying is that the culprit is the the term limits. Yun daw ang culprit doon sa Constitution. Kaya nauso yung dynasty. Bakit? Kasi ito raw
Basta-basahan
ngayon,
lang.
tatakbo ng 9 years. Pagkatapos ng 9 years, nare-re-elect siya, gusto pa siya ng tao, pero hindi na siya pwede. Patatakbuhin yung asawa niya para yung mga programa niya o yung anak niya, para yung mga programa niya tuloy-tuloy pa rin.
So the solution is...
Yun yung sinasabi nila. As I said, I'm not ready to accept